All right, so we're talking about mental health today, and it's a spectrum.
Okay.
And like you rightly said, there are phases where you feel sad, and there are people like that. You just go through this phase that you're just sad, you don't know why, or you lost interest in things that you usually enjoy. Now, the reason why I said it's a spectrum is that you can actually feel that momentarily, and that's gone, and you don't feel that anymore. And I won't say you need to seek any form of medical help.
Okay.
But when it becomes something recurrent, so things like your mood, appetite.
This is actually recurrent. It happens like maybe one week off like that, and it sometimes lasts for a week or more.
Yes, okay. I'm trying to address your case and generally. Okay. So your mood, you're happy now, and you're just sad. You've lost interest in that work that you're usually excited about.
Okay.
Your appetite, sometimes it's either hyper, you're eating more, or you're eating less. Okay. So it actually goes both ways. And then, so when you have those kind of feelings, we start, and it's becoming recurrent, something you want to talk about. You want to seek help. And when you're seeking help, it's not like you might not even first go to the hospital. You might actually, sometimes when you speak to a medical person about this, one of the things we want to look at is to try and find out what has happened recently. What has changed? What has led to that? Because sometimes something might have happened recently. Sometimes subconsciously you're connecting to something that happened in the past. While having a conversation with someone, it triggered it and you didn't know. Let me give you an example, a personal example.
Okay.
Now, I noticed that when I started out after school, and each time I tried to do anything big, a big project, like when we're starting the hospital or we're having a program, I start to have dreams. And my dreams were a particular pattern. I didn't notice until maybe 4 or 5 years later. And the pattern is that it's either I'm having a test in school or an exam and I'm not prepared. It's as if I'm going to, and they couldn't find my continuous assessments. Now, that happens often and it stopped and when that happens, I start to panic when I wake up. Then I panic about what I'm trying to do. Until one day I sat down, I was talking to a friend about it. And it occurred to me that these things only come up when I have
a big project.
Okay. And the simple thing, immediately I identified it, that was a stop.
Interesting.
So that's why I say sometimes it might not necessarily be go to a hospital. You might have to start out by talking to someone, a loved one.
So therapy.
Yes. So if it's recurrent, you want to speak to someone, you want to speak to a doctor. Also, if you now have symptoms like you're having suicidal thoughts, or you're hearing voices that are not there, or you're seeing things that are not there, you definitely have to see doctor. So it's a spectrum from just it comes in, it goes, or if it's affecting your productivity. You want to see.
It seems that mental health is becoming like a very important topic now. Do you understand? Everybody's talking about mental health. My mental health is a mess. I'm doing this. My mental health should be protected at every cost. So is it that it is now is a now thing, or has it always been there?
A lot of things are happening, or things that have happened before. We didn't link them to people's mental health.
Okay.
So you've had someone grow up, get married, the first sign of failure turns his wife to a punching bag. Do you understand?
Okay.
Or walks away from the marriage. And all we just said that he's a bad person. He couldn't manage it, or the wife turns on, or the child does something. The child gets into school, and it happened. At home, you're flogged, you're beaten, and you get into boarding school, or you get into university, and you move to the extreme left. And all those things were people reacting to certain things that affected them mentally.
From childhood,
But we didn't see it that way. And now I think with knowledge and identifying the fact that this affects people, which is valid. But with everything you start to talk about, there's also abuse.
Yes.
So what we're experiencing now is that we're helping people really who actually suffer from this mental health, or which a measure of it, but we're also having people who, because of it, decide to just let go and not do anything
anymore. Okay.
So that's the dilemma we're in now. Whatever is happening now does not make less of the fact that we have issues with mental health, and people are struggling with mental health. But just have other people who are now abusing the fact that we all talk about mental health. I'm sure a lot of people have colleagues and people a little thing, no, see, you're affecting my mental health, I'll just leave it. And lastly, see, WHO conceptualized mental health as every man's ability to cope with normal stress. Do you understand? To work productively and efficiently and be able to contribute to their community. That's actually the concept. So when we're talking about mental, we want to look at stress. Then you want to determine if this stress It's normal. Or it's abnormal. Based on the person, looking at their genetic makeup, you understand, their upbringing and all those things.
So when it comes to mental health, it has always been a thing. It's not a Gen Z thing. It's honestly not. It's more spoken about now. It's just, it has evolved over time.
Okay.
It's just the way before now we used to say some people are deaf, but now we feel like we can't use that word again. We say hearing impairment or visual impairment. Back then, it might have been like maybe abnormal psychology or something, where there's always been a thing, giving different names, and it has always been there. And just like Dr. G was talking about, genetics and all of that, there's 3 main ways to look at mental health and how you can be predisposed to it.
Okay.
So just to put it together, I would say bio, like biological, psychological, and social. And if you are even going to arrive at a diagnosis or anything for anybody, we have to put all of these 3 factors in play. Biological, what's your biological makeup? Do you have history of anything in this, your family? What does your family do? Is your father hypertensive? The same way we collect patients like that. And when we say psychological, they say, what's your personality? He was talking about internal locus of control and external locus of control, meaning that if something happens to you today, do you look inward and say, my bad, it's my fault? Or do you look outside and say, village people are always after me?
Okay.
It gives a perception about who you are and what can happen to you. We say mental health. Is it that people are actually not being resilient enough in this day and time? Or, the pressure is getting worse, something like that. So when we look at that, you would also have to, look at, okay, maybe we've not gotten to therapy yet. Not everybody can maybe afford therapy, and that's why we have support systems and all of that. So when we now talk about mental health, we talked about coping with the normal stresses of life. You have to contribute meaningfully, and if for us to now arrive at maybe something is wrong with your mental health, it must affect 1 or 2 areas, significant areas of your life. So you can't do your work, of course, your mood. So we are quick to label things in Nigeria, go to Google and everything, and depressed and all of that. But for you to have, it must have happened consistently over a period of time.
Okay.
It must affect maybe work, church, relationship. We must be able to look at 2 areas where you are supposed to be contributing meaningfully to, and we are like, no, this person is lacking in this area. So I think
that is how mental health.